All right, listen to me closely. Listen to me very closely, because some people don't know how to follow instructions. I say that because somebody will watch this video and they'll still comment out of pocket. If you don't believe Esau is a white man, then I'm not asking for your comment. I'm asking for all those people that believe that nonsense, that Esau is the white man. Right? So, I said that for them. So if you don't believe Esau is a white man, then don't make a comment. This is for those people that believe that. Right? If you don't believe, or you know that Esau is not the white man, the only comment I want to see from you is agreeing, or concurring what I'm saying. Now, now that I got that clear, let's go here. So let's try to make some sense out of this thing, because I'm doing a series right now on Esau, proving that Esau is not the white man from every angle, right? So I always get the derivatives of one West camp, whether it be IUIC, whether it be GMS, or whether it be Sakari, or any of those camps that come, especially it's the young brothers. The elders don't really deal with it, because the elders know this. The elders know that that's not true. It's not a truth. So if you started something as a doctrine of truth, then you stick with it for the most part. But you know it's not true. Now back to the story at hand. These brothers that constantly come to my videos when on the lesson, and they don't even listen to the information and arguments that I push forward, right? They want to make Esau the white man. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a dumb question, as I always say, right? Could you name one source that you cite, out of all these references that you cite, that Esau is the white man, or as you all say, the so-called white man, right? Can you cite one of the sources where they acknowledge that the Caucasians are Esau? Because every source that makes a so-called white person Esau is not a reference to all Caucasians. There's sources, and you go to the Jewish Encyclopedia, you can go to all of the books that people quote. They're quoting the Jewish Talmudists. And Jewish Talmudists say that Rome is Esau. Okay. Every Caucasian didn't come through Rome. So that basically shows you that you haven't done your homework. Every white person didn't come from Rome. Okay? If you know anything about history, you know that there are people called the Germans. And then the interesting thing about it is that has so many holes in their doctrine, is that because the same people that say Esau is the Caucasian, or the so-called white man, they connect him to the Khazars. Do you know where the Khazars came from? Okay. The Khazars didn't come from Rome. Okay? So, I challenge those of you that believe that teach that foolish, idiocentric doctrine to point to me one source that says Esau is the Caucasian, not Rome. Okay? The source that says that Esau is the Caucasian, you can't find it, because there's no source that tells you that Esau is the Caucasian. Okay? And the origin, as I said, if you Google it, the origin of Esau being Rome started with Jewish Talmudists, because of the persecution that Rome brought upon Israel in 70 AD. Now Google that and get back with me. Shalom.
All right. All praise and glory to Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai, Bashim, Crocodile, Stubble Line, Sir, Apostle, the Great Millstone. Salutations to you. I can do in the work and truth, sincerity. You heard what this guy had to say. Cite one source that points out Esau as the so-called white man because, first and foremost, there is no white nation. Let's get that clear. That's why we say so-called, because there is no white nation. Same thing with black. There is no black nation. The brother of the Chicago camp, what was his name? GMS Maccabean Spirit. He was the one that brought that out first, or the one that I saw that brought that out first. And he cited it from, what is it? It was Jane Battlelor and the other lady, I forget her name. But basically, white is a term that came about in the early 1800s. There was no so-called white person until the 1800s. So, and they used that to basically classify themselves above the slaves. You can look that up yourself. I didn't gave you the name. Like I said, the brother GMS Maccabean Spirit brought that out several years ago. So that explains why we call the so-called white person. It explains why we say it's so-called. Because there is no white nation, there is no black nation. The only nations are the nations in the Bible. All these other names in modern times were changed. Just like, for example, the Iranians. They are the original Persians in the Bible, just for reference. So there is no white nation. So we say so-called white. Now, as far as Esau being the Caucasian, there's only one source that we source, and that source is the Bible. There's no other source that's necessary. You break down the Bible correctly, and that's the only source you need. And there are several facts pointed out, or prophecies pointed out in the Bible, that the so-called white man is Esau, Edom. And we're going to start with Genesis 25 and 22. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Most High. And the Most High said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that his brother came out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. So basically the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. A hairy garment must have looked, pinkish, maybe because of the blood, that was on the garment or whatever. However, they called his name Esau. And we always point this out. After that, his brother came out. Why didn't they describe what Jacob looked like? Because Jacob had melanin like everybody else on the planet. Everybody has melanin except for who? Esau. He came out red because his blood shows forth through his translucent skin. That's Esau. Now, that's a marker right there, because there's only one nation that looks like that. And anybody that looks like that are 90% Edomites. You can be 90% sure that they're an Edomite. Why do I leave 10%? Because Esau has mixed with the nations. So some of them, may be of another nation, including Jake. So no, it's not 100%. It's the majority. The majority of the so-called white men, or so-called white people, men or women, are Edomites. I mean, I can end it right there, because this is the source. However, there are other scriptures that also point to the same thing. Job 9 and 24, the earth because this is a prophecy. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, that's a prophecy. The earth given into the hands of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. And if Esau haven't covered the faces of the judges, because if the Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and natives, Esau put himself up there as the judges. So the scriptures say the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So who rules the earth in these last times? He covered the faces of the judges thereof. That's the proof. If not, where and who is he? If it's not the so-called white man, where and who is he? So that's another source cited through the Bible that's pointing toward the so-called white man being the Edomite. So this scripture here gives you the prophecy. It gives you the evidence that you would know him by, and then it asks you a question: if that's not him, where and who is he? Who else on earth can it be? There's 18 nations. There's only the earth is only given into one of them, and then he covered the faces of the judges thereof, so you won't be confused as to who is it. You ain't gonna be confused that the ones that's covering the faces of the judge, it ain't the Chinese people. It definitely ain't the Africans. So who's the earth given in the hand of, and who cover the faces of the judges? Because the ultimate judge is Yahweh Shai, the one you ignorantly call Jesus. And he covered the faces of the judges, which would be melanated people. And if not, where and who is he? So there you go. That's another source cited, and it's through the Bible. Maccabees, First Maccabees 1:7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule, every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns on themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. So that's giving you a direct correlation of where the evils that's happening today came from. And yes, it's talking about Alexander the Greek, the one they call the Great. You know, Esau is quick to say Greece was the start of modern society. Why? Because it was the start of theirs. Society's been running for thousands of years before Alexander the Greek. And really it's Alexander the Macedonian, first over Greece, the first Edomite to rule Greece. So that's giving you a direct correlation of where the evils of the earth come from. As it is written in Job, the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. Alexander was the first over Greece, the wicked. Evils were multiplied in the earth when they started ruling. So the earth was given into their hands. And Alexander the Macedonian, he was an Edomite. Another one, Obadiah 1:3. Matter of fact, I just read 1:1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. Yes, the so-called white man is despised among the heathen worldwide. Yes, they hate the so-called Americans. The pride of thine heart have deceived thee, thou that dwell in the clefts of the rock. whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground. There you go. That's another prophecy. The pride of thine heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. Esau, Edom, dwells in the clefts of the rock. Edom are the Caucasians. If you don't know what Caucasian mean, it is basically cave dweller. Because they dwelled in the caves of the Caucasus Mountains and Mount Seir. Petra was their home. So Edom are the Caucasians, because they're the ones that dwelled in the clefts of the rocks. Whose habitation is high, who saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest amongst the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh. So this is another site from the Bible, directly putting Edom as the ones that dwell in the clefts of the rocks. Edom being the Caucasians. So the so-called white man, again, pointed out through the Bible that they're the Edomites. Job 30:1. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision. Why? Because Esau comes from Isaac and Rebekah, which were melanated people or dark-skinned people. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Because Esau is vile. He is a weirdo, and he do all types of lewd things. Yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished? For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes, and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men that cried after them as a thief, to dwell in the clefts of the valleys, in caves of the earth, and in the rocks. That's where Esau dwelled, the caveman. So, yes, Esau again are the Caucasians, which is the so-called white man. And that should be enough proof that, yes, Esau is the Caucasian. And it's all cited from the Bible, which is the only source that really matters. So this is Titus 1:15. Everything is pure to those whose hearts are pure, but nothing is pure to those who are corrupted and unbelieving, because their minds and conscience are corrupted. Such people claim they know God, but they deny him in the way they live. They are detestable and disobedient, worthless for doing anything good. Hey, your mind ain't pure, so you worthless for doing anything good, man. And this is Romans 3:3. For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of the Most High without effect? God forbid. Yea, let God be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings, and mightest overcome when thou art judged. So it don't matter whether you believe it or not. There's just several scriptures in the Bible that prove that Esau is the Caucasian. Yes, the so-called white man are the Edomites. So, and I'm going to end it there. And there were a couple scriptures on the side, or a couple things said on the side that, they were right on, But of course, he ain't gonna believe, because his mind is corrupted. But anyway, I'm going to end it there. All praise and glory to Yahweh Bashim, Hawashai Bashim, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone. Salutation to you, Akim, doing the work in truth, sincerity. Till the next time, Shalom.